G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds everyone well. Just wanted to create this quick video today looking at a few extra features of the new Adobe Camera Raw. So there have been some substantial changes with Adobe Camera Raw, and there's certainly mixed reviews online. Personally, I think the change is pretty good, but obviously everybody's workflow and method of editing is different, so it's not going to work for everyone. Just wanted to show some extra features and settings for today's video. Just a few extra little things that I've found while working with Camera Raw since my last video. Alright, so the first one that I wanted to show was just the method of zooming when you're working with a particular image. You can see because both the images that I've got are landscapes, I'm working with the thumbnails down the very bottom of the video. And at the present, if I zoom in or click on the zoom and zoom out, you can see that it's kind of like a zoom into 100% and then a click and drag. I'm not using any other keys or shortcuts for this. And if we go up to preferences, you can see that the zoom and pan, there's an option there, which I have checked at the moment, called use Lightroom style of zoom and pan. So for those people who are accustomed to and prefer Lightroom's method of zooming and panning, then this is a really good way to go. You can, of course, move around, as you can see, and then one click with the mouse and you're back out to viewing the entire image. Now, where that's particularly helpful is when you're doing stuff like noise reduction and sharpening, you want to look at the image at 100%, which means you're looking at every single pixel based on the resolution of your screen. Now, I'm working off a 4K or Ultra HD screen, so when I zoom into 100%, it doesn't zoom in as much because the screen displays more pixels. However, if you're still working on a full HD or 1920 by 1080 screen, then when you zoom into 100%, it's going to zoom in a lot more because the screen is displaying less pixels and your ability to zoom in is increased in order to look at the image at 100%. So again, just clicking out and clicking in takes me into 100%, and then we have the little hand there where we're able to click and drag across the screen and move around and navigate. Now if we just go back out to full view and we go to our preferences and we unclick, you can see it's under general there. We unclick that use Lightroom style zoom and pan. I'm just going to hit OK. Now when I zoom, if I click and drag to the right, you can see I can increase the zoom to any amount, and back again, click and drag to the left, it's going to zoom out. Now when I then click, just a single click, it's going to take me in to that zoom amount, which at this point you can see down on the bottom left hand side there is 281%, because that's what I zoomed in last time. It's going to default back to what it was before, or the last zoom that I went in. So if I zoom in to, say, for example, let's go to around 200%, there we go, and then I zoom back out just by a single click. If I click again, and it's going to go back into that 200%. Now I can still use the drop down box and go to 100% if I want, and then it will revert back to zooming into 100%. But click and drag to the right zooms in, click and drag to the left zooms out, and of course a single click will take us back to a full screen. So that's the new zoom features, which can be found under the preference dialog box or Control K up on the top right hand side there under that little mechanical wheel. So the next feature that I wanted to highlight was we spoke about the basic adjustments, or the adjustments as part of this section of the dialog box, so basic, curve, detail, color mixer, etc. Whenever you make an adjustment, you can see, I've just done an extreme, obviously, exposure increase. You can see that that little eye is highlighted, and I can click on that eye and unclick to view the before and after, or view what the image will look like without that adjustment having been made. Now I'm just going to go back and reset that basic just by holding down Alt and clicking on the particular set of tools that I have adjusted. That takes it back to the original. Now if you look at these other tools up on the top right hand corner, crop, adjustment brush, etc., when I make an adjustment there, so I'm just going to do an increase of exposure and paint that in with the adjustment brush, you can see that a little dot appears next to that adjustment brush. Now, as yet, I haven't found, and I've been in touch with Adobe, I haven't found a way to specifically turn off and on or preview the image with that adjustment off or on. Okay, so at present I don't have a solution, but I am waiting to hear back from Adobe to see if there is one. Now, on previous versions of Adobe Camera Raw, if you made, say for example, an adjustment with your adjustment brush, you were able to look at the image without just that tool or that adjustment brush applied, with and without. So if anybody out there does know how to do that, before I hear back from Adobe, then please pop it in the comments below. But as yet, I don't know how to, or I'm unable to find the method to turn off just the adjustment brush or just the radial filter or anything on this right hand side set of tools, or the graduated filter, for example. So if there is an option, please do let us know in the comments below. As has always been the case, when you have that little adjustment icon there, which I'm just circling around at the moment, if you want to get rid of that, you can delete it, but you can't preview with and without. So if you've made a specific adjustment, unfortunately, you can only delete it to see what the image was like before without having a preview. Now, you do have the before and after views down the bottom, but this is before and after from when you opened the image, not just for that tool. So again, if there's a solution, please let me know. I've been doing a lot of experimenting trying to find it, but I haven't been able to find it as yet. So hopefully soon. All right, but in the meantime, if you do make an adjustment with those tools on the right hand side, again, I'll just make a quick adjustment brush exposure adjustment. You can see there's a little white dot there on the right hand side indicating that we have made an adjustment using that tool. So that's great to know. If you see that little white dot, that's what it means. All right, so the other interesting thing, continuing on with selective adjustments, is if we make, again, that exposure adjustment with your adjustment brush, and we go down and we decided to do a radial filter, you can see now that I've clicked on that radial filter, the exposure has reset. Now, traditionally, when you went from different selective adjustments, when you went onto a new tool, it would carry over the previous adjustments that you would make. And if you didn't want to use those adjustments, you would have to reset them. Now, it defaults back to 0, so that if you are applying a different selective adjustment, in this case the radial filter, then everything has reset and you start from scratch again. Now, if we scroll down, you can see there's a little option down the bottom there, reset sliders automatically. That's what you want to make sure is checked if you want that to be resetting every time you change between tools. However, if you want those adjustments to carry over, you simply uncheck that box at the bottom there, and you'll find that those settings that you made on the previous adjustment tool would be carried over to the new one. So for me, I prefer to have it reset each time if I'm using a different tool. That's the one that you have to check to make sure that that happens. So the next feature that I wanted to highlight, which is again just a little bit of a workflow feature so that you can speed up your process, is on the panels on the right hand side here, so basic, curve, detail, color mixer, split toning, etc. If you right click over those panels, you have the option to select how those panels interact with each other. For example, at the moment we have multi-panel mode, which means I can open multiple panels at the one time. Okay, so you can see I've got basic open and I've also got detail open. So that means that you can have all of those panels open at the one time, or whichever ones you want to. Now you can also expand all, which means all of the panels are open at the one time, and you can see you have to scroll through, very similar to what you would see in Lightroom. You have to scroll down to see all of the options there, or you can collapse all, again collapsing everything back to the starting point. So if we go to single panel mode, then as I open each of those panels, when I open the next panel, it actually shuts down the previous panel that was open. So at any one time, there's only a single panel that's open. So you can see when I open optics, the previous panel was closed down or reduced back to its original state. If I open detail, then optics is shut down. If I open calibration, then detail is shut down. So it just means that you're only ever working on one panel at a time, and it also means that you can keep your screen nice and easy, I guess, to navigate, and your other panel options are there and accessible quite easily and quickly, so that you don't have to go scrolling from top to bottom to be able to find the tool that you're chasing. So that is a handy thing, and one that I think I'll be sticking with. I've certainly been using it over the previous days, and I'm certainly enjoying it the most, as I find that I can, even with a panel expanded, I can find the other edit tools and options that I'm wanting to use quickly and easily. Alright, and the last one, I'm just actually going to reset that adjustment brush that I put in before. The last tool, you can see that I've got two images open here. Now, neither one has any adjustments made to it. These were both photographed in Rome in Italy, a little bit over a year ago. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a new feature that exists within Camera Raw. Now, if I make, for example, a change to one of these images, and I'm going to make an extreme change so that you can see very clearly what's happened. So you can see on that first image, just looking at the thumbnails there, and obviously in the preview, that I've dropped the color temperature quite to an extreme level on the far left hand side, so it looks very blue. Now if I hit done at the bottom, and you can see that that has been, that adjustment has been applied non-destructively to the raw file. Now if I go back to that previous image, or the other image that was opened with that file, and I open it in Adobe Camera Raw, there we go, and just up here on the right hand side you can see there's three dots, and when you hover over it, it says more image settings. Now if I right click and previous conversion, you can see that even though it remembers the previous conversion done to the other image. Now you might say, well, where is that going to be relevant? How would that be important? Or why would that be an important tool to consider when in RAW? Now, in this situation, it's probably not, because both images are in the same folder. I can open both images in Camera Raw, and I can simply take one image, select the other one, and sync all of the settings from the first one to the second one. Now, that's great. Now, where that's a consideration is if I've got one of these images in a different folder and I don't want to copy it into the same folder. So I can simply make the adjustments to this particular image, go to a different folder, select the next image, open that one in Camera Raw, and then clicking over those three dots, I can previous conversion, and we're good to go. You can see it's now ticked. And that means that the previous image settings applied to the other image are now applied to this image. So, interesting feature, and I think one that could potentially come in handy, particularly if you're working with images across multiple destinations or folders within Bridge. So as I further discover new settings and new features of Adobe Camera Raw, I'll continue making videos, and hopefully you'll find them helpful. There's certainly always many different ways to achieve different outcomes within any editing software, and it's sometimes those little nuances of what's available within those programs that can just help not only speed up your workflow and make things more efficient time-wise, but also sometimes it can mean that you can achieve the exact look that you're trying to achieve with your particular image, or the exact edit that you're trying to go for, which ultimately I think is really important, because there are so many tools and so many options available. It's important that you understand all of the options, and that way you can really refine your images to get exactly the outcome that you're chasing. Thanks again for stopping by. I hope this video has been helpful. As always, pop your questions below if you have any. Happy to help out, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.